Hello, this is Dr. Dave Mastak talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3, and in this particular video, I actually wanted to talk to you about what is the difference between a master's and a PhD in business administration. So this is part of my Thesis Help series. I'm a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I'm trying to be as helpful as I possibly can to those people that are interested in going into graduate studies in this particular series, in the Thesis Help series. So what is the difference? First of all, what I'm going to do is probably define what a MBA is, and then get into what a PhD in business administration is, and then get into some key differences, or at least a few key differences that are important that you should be thinking about before you go into either one of these tracks. So first of all, what is an MBA? An MBA is really focused on figuring out how to manage and run a corporation, a business. It could be a not-for-profit. It could be a small, maybe it's some entrepreneurial thing that you have, or a small business. Maybe it's 5 different people. It could also be a large corporation. Often you'll see MBAs that are coming from large corporations that have 10,000 people that are working there and they want to advance in their career. A PhD in business administration is different. It's a research degree that is focused solely on developing the theory behind how markets and organizations work. So you're being trained with a PhD in business administration or a doctorate in business administration. You're trained to become a professor in a college of business, and there are some really key differences that I didn't know when I was going through and looking at all this kind of stuff. There's really nobody out there doing anything like this that I'm doing for you. I started a long time ago in 2005, so there wasn't even YouTube at that time. There wasn't even anybody blogging about this kind of stuff, so it was really ambiguous. So I'm just trying to be as helpful as I possibly can. So what what are some of these key differences? The first one that you should know and you should be really aware about is a PhD program in business administration. You are truly just focused on developing and building theory, right? That is a key thing, and you're not going to know what that is just yet. And I realize that, and it's really hard to figure out what exactly I'm talking about, but really it is trying to come up with the ideas behind how organizations work, right? And how businesses work, how entrepreneurs might work, how markets might work, so what a financial exchange might work. And you're just really kind of exploring. You're much more along the lines of a scientist or a social scientist and trying to figure out how something works, rather than the sort of MBA, which is much more along the lines of execution, where you are trying to actually get some project done, maybe, or you're learning how to get projects done, particularly within teams. There is teams that happen within a PhD in business administration, but it's not to the same degree. You're not sitting down and sort of doing a lot of group work or anything like that. You're a lot more along the lines of that you're executing on a particular idea. So you might have a little quick meeting with a faculty member. It might be for an hour, and then you go and execute on that. You sort of read on your own for a week. Maybe it's 2 weeks, read on your own, and come back and sort of answer that particular question, right? So it's a lot different in terms of the team structure. There's a lot more solo work involved with a PhD in business administration. It's really up to you to a large degree. And this is, this is going to my second point. With a PhD in business administration, you're really focused on publishing and doing science, and really thinking about, you have to think about yourself as a scientist, and you might even look up what some people are saying in like biology and stuff in terms of scientists, because you're really doing the publishing game. That's how you benefit. The publishing game in some of the fields within a college of business, they have very long cycle times. So meaning by the time you actually start on a project, and you start working on it, and by the time you actually get it done, whether it's in strategy, whether it is in accounting, finance, they're pretty long cycle times. MIS, they're going to have very long cycle times that you are looking at maybe 4 or 5 years by the time you actually start a project, and by the time you are, even remotely close to getting this paper published or that project published. So it's a long time. In other fields, it's a little bit less so. So the other thing, what you are doing with an MBA, even if you're doing kind of a research MBA, I know some people do those kind of things, it is really, you're solving a localized problem. What do I mean by that? You're solving usually a problem that is specific to a particular context or a particular business. Maybe it's in the local area and that your business school is, and you're really just kind of solving the problem for that particular business. But in a PhD, you're trying to look at something that's really generic and really general, and trying to solve a problem that is universal across all organizations, or across a very broad set of organizations or a broad set of markets, for example. Um, Another thing that's really important to think about, and I'd say this is probably the third thing that's really important to think about when you do a PhD in business administration compared to an MBA, is that you are really, again, it's because it's a different mindset. You're thinking about as a scientist. So you have to get a really in-depth understanding of methodology, scientific methodology, whether it's statistics, or maybe you're doing some sort of qualitative thing, or you're going out and interviewing people, but you're going to have to get a really robust understanding of methods, and that is a lot different than what you're going to get in an MBA. An MBA, you're going to get kind of a smattering of different methods, and it's going to be really quick and dirty, and then you're just going to have to get out and answer some of those things. But in a PhD, it's really a lot more rigorous. There is a lot more work involved with understanding these methods in terms of the shortfalls, and when you can apply them, when you can't apply them, what are the downfalls, and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot more robust in terms of the understanding you're going to get. A fourth thing that's really interesting is you are going to be on equals with your professors if you do a PhD in business administration, and we try to pride ourselves on that because you are collaborators. You're the people that we're going to be constantly working with. There is a lot more of this relationship where you're actually going to become, friends or coworkers with your professors. First is, just people that you're your teachers, right? The roles sort of change, the status changes between them. That's important to think about, and that's going to be a key difference. You're gonna really realize that as soon as you get involved. And the last thing, I think the fifth probably really important thing that a lot of people don't realize, with a PhD in business administration, your sole job is to generate novel ideas and to show that these novel ideas exist, and that these are really important novel ideas for you to actually pursue. Compared to an MBA, it's really about learning to execute within a team, to get things done, and that's a lot different than the generation of ideas. You just have to get used to that, and that's your job, is to generate these novel ideas. And there's degrees of novelty, obviously, how different they are from the current sort of knowledge of what we have right now, but really that's your job, is to generate ideas as much as you possibly can, compared to other things that are out there. So that's all I wanted to talk about today, is these differences between a master's and a PhD in business administration. They're key differences, and if you do like these videos, make sure you do subscribe. I do appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up, and as well as I'm just looking forward to seeing you on the next video. All right, take care. Bye.